right, everybody, welcome back to That Amazon Ads podcast. Back this week for another episode with a very special guest. We're bringing him back on. We had him on for a debate, stellar debate, and we're here to introduce Mina. Elias, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Good. By the way, since that debate episode, I've had like 3 or 4 people reach out saying that they wanted to do more debate episodes. And I was like, wow, you guys like set the trend.
Yeah, there were a couple other people doing debates. They beat us to the punch by like 1 or 2 weeks, which we were bummed about. But we plan to make it a regular recurring thing. And also, I mean, we were talking about, you and I were DMing on LinkedIn about our next topic for a debate, which would be, well, we were saying, can broad match keywords get a lower CPC on an exact match search term?
Dude, I think people still don't understand like how broad phrase and exact works. It's so crazy, right? Because it's like, dude, you come in and you're like, why I ran these keywords exact match. People are like so delusional. They think they have control on Amazon. You don't have control. You're literally, you have no control. It's like there's a huge tornado and dude, you're just trying to survive. Like that's it. So people are like, well, I exact matched all of my main keywords. I'm like, good luck, dude. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's great.
Well, be careful. I don't know if you could tell by Andrew's face, but he was not amused because he's on the flip side of this.
Oh,
of this
well,
argument.
I think it's a nuanced discussion, and I think a lot of people are perpetuating a discussion that isn't helpful for a lot of people. And I think there's a lot of nuance in there that needs to be kind of discussed, because you can't just be throwing things out there like, I get cheaper CPCs on my broad match, because everything's at a search query level. And so if you actually try to do that, you actually try to run an experiment, and really dial in into where you're just targeting an individual search term in broad match, it's virtually impossible. But anyway,
yeah.
Well, it's a conversation for another time.
It
For sure.
needs a debate.
Yeah, it needs a debate. It'd be fun. It'd be a good one for people too, I think.
Maybe we'll do a 2v2, or it'll be like me and Mina versus Andrew and
I gotta find somebody who agrees, man. Like, it's tough out there.
Yeah, if you would like to join the debate, leave a comment and say me.
Do it.
All right, so Mina, the real reason why we are here today is not to debate, but to just learn from you. This is something Andrew and I we've interacted with you some, and we realize there's a lot of things that we could learn from you, and we figured might as well just like put a mic in front of you while we ask you some questions so that everyone else can get a chance to learn too. But for people who didn't catch your debate on AI versus manual bidding optimizations, go back and listen to that. But they also might not know exactly who you are. So why don't you just give us like a really quick, just kind of like 10-second refresher, maybe 15 seconds of just like what you do in the Amazon space.
Yeah, cool. So I started in the Amazon space in 2018. I started a supplement brand. By trade, I was a chemical engineer and chemist. I was working corporate, hated it, decided to start a supplement brand because I was an MMA fighter, called it MMA Nutrition, and then failed at selling it at gyms and stores. Figured I'd get it on Amazon because that's where I buy all my supplements. Got it on Amazon, became fully obsessed with how to make it work because it was my ticket out of like corporate slavery. Made it work. It was making like $4,000 a month in profits. I got fired from my job like 6 months into starting the business. Packed my shit, went to Egypt to like reinvest everything back into the business. Got it to 7 figures, or like moved back to LA, got it to 7 figures. COVID hit. I started sharing things like that I've learned of how I grew my brand with like $500 on a credit card and not knowing anything, didn't do a course, nothing, because I didn't know any of this world existed. So I shared all of my learnings, all of my pain, all of my mistakes. People loved it. I grew a personal brand. And then later in the year, this aggregator hit me up to train their in-house team. They wanted me to run one of their brands as proof. I ran it for a few months. And then they told me that I beat 6 other agencies that they had hired. And then, there's been a huge demand for me to run people's brands. So I ended up starting Trivium Group in early 2021 as an Amazon advertising agency. And then 2 years later, we have 81 employees, 155 brands under management. And we're full stack,
That's
just
crazy.
helping brands grow. Yeah, that's
I
the story.
I didn't realize it was only since 2021 that you got to those numbers. That's a massive accomplishment.
Yeah, May 2021 was my first, besides the aggregator, my first actual client.
Nice. Very
Dang.
cool. I mean, I think we have a lot of questions. That's probably the rest of this episode will just be us asking more details around specific things that you just said. First of all, I don't think, Andrew, did we know that Mina did MMA before?
I did not know that you did MMA. I feel like I heard you say MMA nutrition one time, and I was like, huh, that's interesting, and like just kind of pass my thoughts.
You
but
look like you do MMA.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
Now you see the nose is messed up and all this.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. I just mean like you look like you could handle someone is all.
Yeah. No. I train hard every like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking on Saturdays. I still train like very competitive.
Nice.
Are you like competing at all, or just training?
The last time I competed was 2019, and then COVID hit, and then I got COVID and pneumonia, so I had a lung surgery. So I was out for a while. I'm back, but I haven't competed since then. I'll probably do more jiu-jitsu tournaments. I'm definitely done with MMA. Like it's a lot, and you have to be super disciplined, and like I honestly don't think I have the discipline to like turn everything down for like 6 months when I'm traveling like every other month and going to conferences and being, wine and dined and stuff like that every other week. So it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to compete in MMA. In jiu-jitsu, definitely.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu competitions are fun for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
cool, man.
business is more profitable, competing in MMA or MMA nutrition?
Oh, dude, I lost money competing in MMA. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So one thing that I did kind of wonder is, but kind of before we get into, because I've got a lot of questions around just like growing an agency, and that's like extremely rapid growth. So I definitely have a lot of questions there. But before we kind of dive in, something we were talking about before we hit record. So I haven't heard your answer yet, but we were talking about this. But we were saying, what are some of the major trends or even major red flags that you've been observing in the Amazon space? And this could be from any side of things. This could be from like the Amazon business side, from the Amazon advertising side, but just what are some like red flags, some like warning signs? Because there's just been so many changes happening on Amazon, especially this year. So what are some things that people should be aware of, just that if you could, you would want to warn people against, or at least just like call it out?
Yeah, cool. So 2 things I want to cover. The first thing is, I'm sure everyone's feeling this, like the margin deterioration since like Chinese competitors are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first big thing is more and more Chinese competitors are coming in, and Chinese like manufacturers are hitting me up saying that they want my help to start a US LLC and pretend that they are a US company, and then we'll run everything, and then they're manufacturing things dirt cheap, like going direct, manufacturer to consumer. So they're basically going to undercut everyone on price. So when you know that you can't win on price, you have to start thinking, 2 things. Number 1, how can you win elsewhere? And number 2, IP, like globally, like so IP in China and other manufacturing countries and in the US. So one thing that I would start doing is, if you're getting into it, you're launching more products, make sure that you have some sort of like intellectual property, design patents, utility patents. Obviously easier said than done, but maybe even like custom molds, things like that, something that makes you stand out significantly, and get all of that IP protected in China. They do take it seriously. So the second that, say, hey, we're like, this is our IP, you can't manufacture this, they can no longer come in to the US market, because they know, like, I mean, China takes the regulations seriously. It's not like, a Wild West there. It kind of is, but like you can shut people down for, infringing on IP. And then the second thing is like figuring out where else you can win. Because it's like, okay, if we're both selling a $30 product and my competitor comes in, like, I mean, the cost of goods sold, let's say, is $5. And, if they come in at $1, they can cut you by $4. So where can you have an advantage? And then this takes me to like my second point, which is, I think there is zero room for error anymore on Amazon. Like I remember like back in the days, like Google and Facebook and those places, you would put up these ads and like they would scale like crazy. Everyone told me this, like they would put up a Facebook ad and they would keep the same creative for like a year. Now they're telling me like they need to churn through creatives like every 2 days, right? Because of churn, because of creative like and ad fatigue and things like that. And so Facebook is just ahead of Amazon. Amazon now got to this point where every manufacturer in the country wants to get on Amazon. Everyone who was like focused on retail is coming in. Every aggregator is coming in. Like there's like institutional capital coming in. The Nestle and all of those like big, like traditional aggregators are coming in. So there's no more like room for like being like anywhere sloppy. Like I'm seeing people launching and I'm looking at their listings, and the main image isn't optimized enough with like data. Like when you put them up, like there's no excuse. If you right now have a product, there's no excuse that your main image is not better than your competitors, because you have a chance. You can go, take your main image, split test it 100 times on PickFu, whatever, go into manage my experiments, and now your main image is better than everyone else. And then 3 months in, 6 months later, they're gonna, your competitors are gonna beat you, and it's this continuous cycle. Same with the rest of images, your videos on your listing, every piece of your listing. There's no excuse for you not to have premium A+ content right now. You know how many percent of listings have premium A+? Like maybe 1-2%. Like, why? Just go submit your A+ content, get every single SKU to have a brand story, go get your premium A+ content. And so I think there's no more room for error. And on top of that, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's like a billion Amazon agencies popping up. And so, and they're popping up like also natively in like Eastern Europe and all this stuff. So they have like cheap prices. So everyone who's trying to sell on Amazon, not only, like, are you competing with the big dogs, but even the small people have access to agencies. And so it's become a very competitive landscape. So, which means like you can win, right? But you need to be perfect on everything. You need to have really good main image. Always think about what's your next iteration for packaging. Your listing images should sell perfectly. You should have really good, videos. Your title, your bullet points, SEO optimized, readable, nice to see. A+ content, like you have the brand story, you have premium A+, sells the product very well. You should be like, I know that you can find the best competitor in your category, and then find a designer for like $500 to $1,000 max, and they can revamp everything. It just, people need to put in the work, right? It's a lot harder than it used to be. You can't it used to be nice, right? In 2018 when I launched, it wasn't even the good days, right? It was past the gold rush, but I put some like ugly ass gold bag with a sticker on it, and it was working, and my images were all done by some random person from Fiverr, and it was still like making sales, like 10, 20 units a day. There's no way, like now, there's no way I would be dead, because everyone, even the people who are just launching, they have access, like no limit creatives gives you like top level like graphic design for $500 a month. So it's like, the competition level is just, like in the UFC, right? Where like whatever, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it used to be like they all sucked. Like a pro and a world champion back then will get destroyed by an amateur fighter now, because just the level is just improving and getting better and better. So those are the negative trends that I'm seeing right now on Amazon is you're competing with China. And so you need to have a solution for that. Either you have like products that aren't made in China, supplements, food, skincare, cosmetics, things like that, like, yeah, you can make from China, but most people don't want to make it in China. Or you have some sort of IP, and then there's no room for like error. Like you have to be on point on every part of your listing.
Very good. Andrew and I were taking notes over here on our little shared Google Doc. Andrew, did you have any follow-ups to that, or deeper
No,
questions?
not really any follow-ups to that. Just kind of an acknowledgement of kind of what you're saying, man. Like we definitely have seen that with several clients, Chinese competitors coming in, undercutting on price, and it causes us to kind of have to come up with creative ways to try to compete and stay ahead and stay on that cutting edge, and optimizing in ways that those companies maybe aren't, and just finding those areas where we can compete. So I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there. I've even heard of some brands that are like, they have like a premium brand version, and then they're launching lower priced versions as well to kind of offset and compete with those Chinese brands. So there's a lot of that going on simply due to those new sellers coming in. But yeah, to kind of like back it up a little bit, I'd love to hear a little bit about what it's like to start a brand from scratch on Amazon, and some of the growing pains that maybe you went through in building that, and like stuff you had to learn in that process.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna
so
add to that really quick. Mina, take us back to the super beginning. Just like even like how did you even know where you were gonna get the manufacturing from? Like how did you
okay.
even figure that out? You know?
You guys want to get into story time? I got you.
Yeah, story
All right.
time.
Yes.
This is exactly like the story time, right? So I was sitting in a cafe in Egypt on vacation, summer vacation with my parents, and I'm like researching a bunch of supplements. So my dad asked me like why I don't have a supplement brand, and I thought that was going to be super expensive. Anyways, long story short, I figured that it's actually not that expensive. I looked at raw ingredients like bulk supplements.com on Amazon, and I'm like, dude, I can mix this shit up and it would cost $4 to $5. I think it was $4 in raw material, including the bag and the sticker. And I could sell it like my top competitors were $25 to $30 range. I could undercut them being $20 range and be profitable, right? So I ordered the stuff at home and I started mixing it, and I, pretty much mixed it manually, tried it on myself. Then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start, selling it in gyms. I literally went to a bunch of gyms and a bunch of stores, and they all kind of like looked at me like, who's this guy, right? Like, and so they're like, yeah, we'll take one, or like, oh no, actually, like we can't sell at this gym or something. And, obviously they're selling like drinks and stuff, but I just basically got rejected, and I'm like, I have a full-time job, I can't afford to keep going to all these different places and get rejected. So I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how to sell on Amazon. And actually, even crazier, right? I did my soft launch, which was November 2nd, and it was at an MMA event. And my friend basically lied to everyone, my friend who was with me, and he says, Mina's going to be on Amazon soon. Just look out for the product. And because I showed up there with like 40 products, and everyone asked me, where can I buy this? Because they didn't want to buy it on the spot. And I didn't even have an e-commerce website. I had a website with no buy button, no add to cart, nothing.
Very nice.
It was like just pages, and obviously complete noob, dude. I was a killer like engineer, but I didn't know anything about business. So I went home and I'm like researching like, how do I sell on Amazon? How do I sell on Amazon? And then I started like reading all these crazy articles where you have to pay $3,000 to get ungated for supplements and all this shit. So I'm like, yo, this is confusing. I'm calling Amazon. I literally called Amazon 100 times until I got connected to Seller Central from the buyer support line or some telephone number that was publicly available. Finally, they connected me to Seller Central, and they're like, sure, man, we'll help you get started. Like, I'll send you a packet in your email. What's your email? So they send it to my email account. I open it up, and it's like steps, how to sign up to Seller Central and all this stuff. So I sign up, and I go in, I put all of my information, all of this stuff. And again, like, this was like just my company ID, and then it's all my personal, like my personal credit card, my personal home address, everything. I'm on, and then I'm watching videos on YouTube, like how do I add a listing? So I go in, I find how to add a listing. You got to buy a UPC. Okay, let's go to GS1 barcode, buy a UPC. I'm following all the steps, and then I'm like, okay, I'm pretty much done. But they're like, okay, you need to get ungated for this category. You need to upload a certificate of analysis and an invoice. So I messaged like 30 manufacturers basically to get quotes. Everyone was like $1,000, 1,000 units minimum. $8 per year. I'm like, $8,000, bro. I'm broke. Like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. There's no way I can do this. Like maybe I'll put like a couple thousand on my card, my credit card, but I can't put like $8,000. I don't know if this is gonna work. So, anyways, I'm trying to get ungated. So this one Chinese manufacturer was super responsive. And I don't even know why I messaged a Chinese manufacturer. Later on, I realized it's a very bad idea to, go to China for supplements. So I said, listen, I need to sell on Amazon. They won't let me sell unless I have a certificate of analysis and an invoice. So he gave them to me, even though I didn't buy anything from him. He just like created them. I submitted them to Amazon. They got rejected like 4 times. On the 5th time, it got approved. And so I'm like, okay, finally I'm in. And I was literally about to buy everything. Like I searched the internet, right? And I'm like, where can I buy bulk sodium, carbonate and potassium carbonate and magnesium oxide and whatever, like all these different ingredients in bulk, the cheapest. And I had this like spreadsheet matrix, and I'm like, this, one company, it seems like it has the cheapest prices. So, and I calculated, and I told my roommate, because my roommate was a full-time MMA fighter. He used to work like part-time at Costco. I'm working full-time. So I'm like, I'll pay you if to mix this, I'll give you the ingredients, mix it up, I'll give you the ratios and all this stuff, and then package it, and then with a clothing iron, you're gonna seal the bags and put the sticker
Wow.
on.
Dang, man.
I was literally gonna do that, and then I'm like, you know what? I was in the bathroom at MMA, and I'm like, let me just text this guy, and I text him, the one that I'm buying the supplements. I'm like, hey, I'm about to buy like some like raw ingredients from you. How much would it cost if you made a mix for me? He's like, what's the formula? I sent him the formula. He's like, $5. I'm like, yo, like that's exactly how much it was gonna cost me if I paid my roommate. I'm like, I might as well have this manufacturer do it. And honestly, it was like a very it wasn't a manufacturer. It was like a guy who had like a part of his apartment as a manufacturing or something like that. Like I looked at Google Maps or and it definitely wasn't like super legit. So anyways, I'm like, okay, cool. Like he's like, how many do you want? I'm like, 100 ? He's like, yeah, sure, we can do 100. I'm like, dude, like this guy, like this is amazing. So basically I sent him packaging, right? Like bags from Amazon.com direct to his warehouse. And I bought like stickers from this print shop near my office, and I shipped it to his warehouse. And then he manufactured the stuff, filled it up, and sent me like a picture. And I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing. And they shipped it to Amazon. And we never tested the durability of the bags. And 60 out of the 100 units broke in transportation.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not
nice.
like to Amazon, but from Amazon to the customer. So I start getting all these emails, and I'm like freaking out, dude. And then I'm like, shit, like let me just do another 100. So I ordered another 100. And then I remember like I was watching Samer Brax's video, and he's like, here's like, you go into X-ray, go into whatever cerebral, you see the CPR, if it says 8, then you are gonna give away 8 a day, and then if you do that for a week or 2 weeks, you're gonna rank the top of page 1. I'm like, dude, I got it. So I log in, I look, and for electrolyte powder, it was like 68 or something per day. It's some like crazy number like that. It was like 82 per day. Some shit. I'm like, dude, I can't give 82 per day. I'm like, you know what? Let me just do whatever I can. I'm gonna text all of my friends, and I'm gonna offer them the product. Like I'll Venmo them the money in exchange for them leaving me a review, because I knew reviews were super important. So I started DMing every single person for like every day for like hours. Anyone that I knew, I'm like, yo, I just launched on Amazon. I would love to give you the product for free. Give me your Venmo. Here's a link to the product. Buy it. I'll send you the money. And then please like leave me a review. It's going to make a huge difference. And then that's essentially what I did. And then the final video I watched on YouTube was like launch an auto campaign and launch like a broad phrase and one campaign with one ad group broad, one ad group phrase, one ad group exact. Make them like $1, $2, $3 bids, like, just some random stuff. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. $100 budgets. And then it just started spending $100 a day and making $100 a day. And I'm like, dude, I'm making like money. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. But obviously I didn't understand like ROAS. I didn't understand like that I was losing money with every sale. I thought I was breaking even. And then I'm like, wait a minute, dude. There is like cost of goods involved. I'm not breaking even. I'm losing the cost. But I'm like, whatever. It's like I'm losing $50 a day. Not too bad. And then I'm like, oh shit, there's Amazon fees too. And I'm realizing like I'm losing like $100 a day. So that's essentially like my start into Amazon. And then like this obsessive like learn everything. I was in like 6 Facebook groups. I don't even know how I found the first. I think it was I watched Samer's YouTube, Samer Brax. I got into his Facebook group because he said in the channel like join the Facebook group, and I literally asked like 5 questions a day. And I'm like, you know what? My questions aren't being answered fast enough. So I found related groups because like, Facebook suggests you these other groups. I joined them, and then I just started asking questions and reading every single comment. And I would like take the knowledge and apply it. And that was my start, dude. That was my start. And like, so you want to hear this, right? Like this was my biggest oh shit moment. And so I called this big agency when I was like doing maybe $4,000 a month in revenue, and it was Tenuity. And I'm like, I called them and I'm like, hey, like I want to work with you guys. Like I have an Amazon brand. Like how much do you charge? And they're like, okay, tell us like how much do you spend and how much revenue? So I told them, and they're like, you're kind of like too small for us. The minimum that we would charge is like 3,000, something like that. But they sent me a bunch of resources. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like agencies don't want to work with me. I'm too small. Then I'm like, okay, I need some sort of like software or something like that, right? Like, cause that was my solution. So I used the software. I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to like, make them look bad. But they like ruined all of my campaigns, right? So I like took off the software after a month. I'm like, damn, dude, like, wow, I was doing so well before the software. Now my spend is up, my sales is down. I don't know why. I don't know what they did. They just changed bids like crazy. So then I'm like, I'm like, okay, I just have to learn this better. And I studied and I studied and I just started applying. And I'm like, okay, auto campaigns, breaking up the auto campaigns, launching broad on its own. Because when I put broad with exact, like I noticed that the exact doesn't get, whatever. And I just kept iterating. And then finally, the day that I got fired from my job, I actually, there was an Amazon meetup by Amazon in New York City. And Casper, like the mattress, their CMO was speaking and obviously talking about how amazing Amazon is. So I showed up there because they said that there was going to be experts from Amazon. So I show up there. There's experts from Amazon, talking. I walk up to the Amazon ads person, right? And I tell her, like, can I tell you my strategy and like tell me if it's good or like what I can do to improve. And by the way, my PPC sucked back then. Like I wasn't, I mean, not that it sucked, but I wasn't making money. Like I was making a little bit of money. I'm like, how can I be like these other people? So I told her my strategy and she's like, yeah, I mean, I think you're doing everything right, but maybe just go broader. And that was like dude, like, I'm like in deep waters and like there's no one coming to get me.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But that's the story, man. That's story time. Sorry if it was a little bit long.
Well, I think a couple observations. Number one, the Amazon business is far from passive income. People have this passive income dream. Just listening to all of that, if anything, it was active negative income at times.
Yeah, always. For a while, for a very long time.
Yeah. Also, I was watching this documentary the other day on kind of the drug trade and just how all that works. And I just had that visual of you like in your room, just like mixing supplements together and ironing packages closed.
Slinging whey protein at your apartment.
That was literally what I was doing.
Yeah, it's truly a testament to you and just like a real case of ingenuity and just being creative and just sticking with something. That's a pretty cool story,
drive.
Man. Yeah, that hustle and that drive is really evident in that story.
But also, Mina, I don't know if you are in our Discord group, but that sounds like something. We have That Amazon Ads podcast Discord server. Which, are you familiar with Discord?
Yeah. I'm in some Discord groups. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, we'll let you in. You should also let the whole you should share around your Trivium with all your employees. I bet a lot of them we would get a lot of value having that. I mean, just knowledge sharing. But it sounds like kind of those Facebook groups you were talking about. Just that's why we created it. It's just like a free thing that Andrew and I, just as we interact with other people, we're able to like throw ideas out there and have little kind of internal debates and discussions and share feedback. It's just been super valuable. But yeah, I mean, like from what I'm hearing from your story, just like the power of just knowledge and also grit and determination and just really a lot of the times what it sounds like is the answer is not out there. You got to go find it yourself. Like you can certainly reach out and talk to people, but most of the time they don't know or at least they don't know you or they don't know your business. A lot of it is like, you got to just kind of be a problem solver, really is what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah. And like no one's going to care about your business more than you. So even if the answer is out there, like another thing is, you have to apply it because it's like, like how many of us like could look at, YouTube videos and there's some guy giving you a diet and then you try the diet and it doesn't work. And it's because it's like, it's so individual to your like business. So It's like, take everything that you're learning and then apply it and then take notes. And then that's how you learn. And it's very specific to your own business. So it's like, it's not even like a lot of the times, like people come to us and they think like we're super experts and everything. And I'm like, dude, all I know is I'm going to test a million things like every day until we figure out what's working and what's not working. And, you can do it too. Like it's hard. That's all.
So that was awesome hearing about just like kind of all the startup of trying to get a brand and a product going. And that was 2018 when there was less competition. So even now, coming off of everything you were mentioning with just these commoditized industries and just all these super cheap products coming in from overseas, is way more difficult to launch now. But to kind of switch tracks a little bit, in 2021, you started this agency, Trivium Group. And I'm curious there, just like what was kind of the key to that substantial growth? Because I started my agency, Ocean PPC, in 2019, and I have one employee, and
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
employee is Andrew. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean I have a couple. I have like some subcontractors, but also my goal with that was never really to like scale an agency, just because for me, frankly, it was I try to hire someone and they just don't get it, and so I'm like, okay, they're done, and then I hire someone else. It's like, okay, they don't quite have it. Okay, next, and that's the issue I've had, and to the point where I'm just like, I would rather just kind of manage all these clients myself and just like enlist some subcontractors for some help with the heavy lifting. But for the most part, I frankly just don't trust other people with my money, if you want to think about it that way, because these clients are money to me. So sorry, that was me. I'm trying to ask you a question in all of that, but
Well,
just like
I get the
how
question.
you
I
achieve
know
that
you.
growth, and the growing pains, what it's been like.
Yeah. So okay, so the growth was essentially from content marketing, and it wasn't like content marketing like I intended it to be content marketing. Like it wasn't kind of like strategic. It was more like I knew that I was gonna go out there and add the most amount of value on every platform that I could, expose myself to different audiences, and then I would say that I have an agency, and I would make sure that I mentioned the name of the agency and the website, and then people came to me, and so there's obviously like two parts of it. Part number one is sales and marketing, and part number two is like operations and hiring. And again, like a lot of issues with those, but the early days, it was like, okay, I was doing one podcast a week. I was doing YouTube videos. I was posting on Facebook, in the Facebook groups. I was very active and whatever. And all it was I'm just giving as much value as possible, telling people exactly how to do what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, they're coming to us for like execution and so they can be the CEO, not the person who's in the day-to-day of the PPC. So that was kind of, obviously part of the growth, right? Which is like sales, marketing. When it came to like why we were able to sell is because I had this constant feedback loop. Number one, as a brand owner, I knew what I wanted, and I wanted like to feel like I had my own team, not that I had like an agency. And I think that's the thing that I still struggle with as like a business. Whenever I hire an agency, they feel so external. It feels like us versus them. It feels like I'm hunting you down for communication. I'm not getting enough strategy. It just all these things. And so I made it like a point from the beginning is like, first of all, what do I want as a brand owner? And I wrote it all down. And then every brand that I worked with, I was always asking like, how can I be better? How can I be better? And it was like, okay, maybe it's more updates, better reporting, easier to read, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And so that resulted in like the sales process getting better because you would come to me and I'd be like, okay, so here, we're doing daily updates. Look, this is our reporting. This is how we communicate. This is this. And then some people, they had agencies where the agency would send emails. And I'm like, we were in like Slack, like communicating daily. It felt like you had your own in-house team. So they're like, I'm definitely going to not do this like email agency and come work in Slack. So that was a big part of it. So that enabled the sales. Then recruiting and operations was difficult. So the first person I ever hired, I hired for MMA nutrition. They didn't know anything. So I'm like, yeah. And at the time, I don't think there was anyone that knew anything in terms of like employees for PPC, right? It was like, if you knew PPC, you were a brand owner, like, or, you were one of those lucky people that got hired by a massive brand to learn PPC on their dime, right? And so I could never afford you anyways. So those were the only people out there. So I realized that, and I said, okay, I just have to take what's in my brain and distill it. But then I realized, like, even if I did that, it was still gonna be tough for them to like perform the way that I needed them to. So I said, okay, how can I just reduce the time that it takes me to do my job? Well, okay, number one, they can do the like gathering of the data and presenting it so I can make decisions. Number two, if I told them what to do in terms of like, okay, like bulk sheet, lower the bids, like lower, like main keywords, don't lower them. Anything, that's above 85% or 80% ACOS, lowered by 5 cents. Anything that's, profitable, let's say like 1 to 20% ACOS, increase it by 10 cents. Go into the search term report, negative anything that's like, greater than 80% ACOS or more than $15 in no sales. So I would say those things. and they would come to me with the like, or the one guy would come to me with the sheet done and said, here you go. Is it good to upload? I'd be like, yeah, this is good to upload. And then they would upload it. So the strategy came from me. And then, they did the dirty work, and then I did just the review and upload. So that was pretty good for me to scale for a while. So with one person, we were working like that, and we were able to get to like maybe 8 brands because I was just coming up with all the strategy and they were just executing. And I just needed to spend, a couple hours a week on strategy, right? Like, because you're just reviewing the data and you're like, okay, I know what the plan is going to be for this week. So then it was like, okay, that guy, now I need to build him up. And so instead of just, saying like, okay, go do this, I'm like, what do you think we should do? And so he had seen the patterns enough where it's like, okay, now I know what I think we should do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, good, go do it. I think we should do it. Yeah, that sounds good. Go do it. Then I think we should do this. I'm like, go get me X, Y, and Z and let's review it. Okay, no, you should do this. And so that person got trained up. He later on got his friend because, I didn't have a hiring process. But then I realized, okay, I need a pretty good hiring process. So I hired some people initially, had to let them go because I had a bad hiring process. So I improved it to be, okay, these are people that need to be intelligent. They need to work good in Excel. They need to communicate in English. So I started doing, okay, the first interview was going to be like an English test. The second interview was going to be an Excel test. The third interview was going to be like, another test. And then if they passed all of this, then I would hire them. And so that became good. I was now hiring good people, but it was only through referrals. So I needed, okay, how do I scale this? And then I hired one recruiter and I turned it into like a sales and marketing team, but for like employees. So I was like, we're going to make these job postings. We're going to make them look nice. You're going to post them in all the places. And then later on, like we found some recruiters to also supplement. We started doing like reaching out on LinkedIn and all this stuff. But before it was like, we were posting in different Facebook groups, like for recruiting from Eastern Europe. We were posting on like LinkedIn and like Indeed and, those places. And it just became a balance of like, sales and marketing, showing up to more places, giving more value. People come to me. I'm offering something better than what's outside, right? Like, people come and they have complaints and they're like, well, I feel like this agency didn't come to me with strategy. So I'm like, okay, guys, on day one, when we onboard someone, you have to lay out a full strategy for them for like the next like 90 days. And then every 90 days, you're going to say, now this is the new strategy. So it was like that iteration plus the hiring and the operations consistent that resulted in like the agency growing.
And how does it look now? How does it look now compared to when it was like then in terms of your hiring and training process? I know you kind of alluded to it and you created a sales and marketing team for hiring people, which is a pretty cool way of looking at it. How's like your training system developed over the years, and how have you refined that even more?
Oh, dude, it's next level now. Like it's crazy like how far we've come, but our training is different. So our recruiting is essentially now the same, just more rigid. It's like, if I let you into the company, you have to be an A player. I made the mistake in the past. And that's, I think, was one of my biggest mistakes, was I just let people into the company because they, fit some boxes and someone under me had said that they were a good candidate, but I should have like had the final interview. I should have felt that vibe. Like, are you going to be, like a complainer, a negative like person or whatever, like, or are you a problem solver, a hustler, like whatever it takes type of person, and have the skills. So, it's just now we have harder tests. We're still hiring the same recruiters, posting everywhere. We're starting to run some ads on Facebook for hiring, like things like that, doing outbound, like outreach to people who have like that name, like PPC manager, whatever, in their job title. In terms of training, they come in, we have like an hour by hour calendar. And I learned this from like 4Media. They're now bad marketing, but they have an hour by hour, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. You're having, like a huddle with your, person who you're shadowing. 9 to 11, you're working on these chapters in this. And then as like before it was like for PPC, it was like you have to train on exactly how to do PPC, and you'd have to take tests and then pass, and then you have to shadow someone, and then basically you become their assistant. And then when they tell us like this person is doing everything right and they're coming up with good strategy, then you get promoted. Now we're able to find talent. Like the aggregators let go of like hundreds of, people who already know PPC. So now they come in and all they have to do is just like absorb the Trivium way, which is, how we run ads, how we think you either scale or you optimize, that you're driving traffic, and then that traffic, there's a certain click-through conversion rate, and that's, what's gonna, create your sales. And so they understand all of the concepts that I preach, and that we have at Trivium. And then they're like, okay, we understand this. Then they're put on as an assistant to someone. They're basically assisting them, so like this person's like, I'm going to lay the strategy. You're going to do the work. Cool. Okay, you tell me now what's the strategy. Perfect. And then there's like a pod leader, obviously, that's like a team leader that's making sure their work is good. And then after that, they start handling their own brands. Now that and I think the biggest thing for us is not training. Like now it's like, it'll take us like a few days, maybe a week for us to get them into the like Trivium way of doing ads. Because we're also always adding strategy, and we're telling you like, there's systems and everything for all the different strategies. But the main thing is, how are you communicating with clients? Like, is it like a Four Seasons, St. Regis experience when the client comes in, they love you, like you're talking to them like a person? Like so many times, like you're onboarding with an agency and they're just like, and you're like, dude, this is a robot, versus like, how we're talking. And I'm like, yeah, I know Andrew, like I know Steven, they're my friends. That's like the relationship we're trying to build. And that's like the hardest part. Like, and that's the one thing that I wasn't testing for, which is emotional intelligence, which now I am.
It's a big one for sure.
Yeah, extremely difficult to find people who, I think it's like a triangle. People always talk about like a trilemma. You can only have two of the three. And I think with being like a good advertising manager or Amazon manager, you need to be like, you got to be mathematically, analytically minded, but you also need to be very creative, which those are kind of two different sides of the brain. And then you also have to be like a salesman and like good emotional intelligence. And to have all three of those, it's like they don't really exist. I mean, they do, but it's like a very small percentage of the world. Yeah. And it's so difficult to find someone who's got all three. And I think that's part of why I typically can't, I haven't been able to hire anyone.
You're that like 1% of the world, right? So you're like, if you don't find another person, so you have to come up with a solution, and I wish I have this solution, right? But we're still, figuring it out. Like part of it is, we have like a senior level person who is that like, salesperson, right? And
right.
Maybe
so like a pod structure.
Exactly. And so that they're coming in and they're doing a little bit more, but it's like, eventually I do need to figure out a way where the people who are, running the strategy and doing the work, like the mathematical work, are also good people, people. Yeah.
We had an interview with Elizabeth Green. I'm sure you know who she is, but she was sharing that she used to not be a people person. She used to be the quietest person in the room and really shy and all these things. And she just had to like kind of start putting herself out there and just pick up that skill. And I think that's hopefully encouraging for a lot of people to see that skill can be learned, because I am the opposite. I've always been the loudest person in the room growing up. So
it's definitely something that you can change, because I was kind of the same too. I was not loud until like maybe 9th grade. Like before 9th grade, I was incredibly shy, especially like when I was younger. And then something like changed, and then I became like more of a people person.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have any other questions from anything else that we were just talking about before we get?
No, I don't think so, man. I think that was really comprehensive and good. I really enjoyed that conversation, and hearing about your story, man. That's a lot of detail that we went into. Got to hear all the grit and wisdoms that have kind of come out of a really cool journey. So we really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate that we can't just talk to you for 8 hours and just keep sharing, because I think just the wealth of knowledge, which it's crazy just how much you've learned really since 2018. Just it's kind of like your Amazon experience has been in dog years, and 1 year is like 7 years of knowledge.
That's how it feels, man. It feels like I started like 20 years ago in this Amazon space.
Can you believe it's going to be 2024 soon?
So man, I can't believe that 2020, like COVID, was 4 years ago. It's just,
I know.
Yes.
It's insane. But Mina, why don't we before we wrap up here, why don't you just give everyone kind of just some, parting piece of advice until we meet again, because I'm sure we'll have you back on in the future, especially for some debates, if not for just some more interviews like this one. But what's maybe something you would just kind of give to anyone out there? Most of our audience, they are advertising managers. There's a few brand owners, a lot of freelancers, a couple of people working at agencies. So it's a wide array of audiences. But what's something you would kind of tell them, maybe more specific to just like kind of the general Amazon advertising side of things? Any kind of parting wisdom?
Yeah. I mean, if the majority is like people in the PPC space, like service providers, I would say, like the biggest thing that you can do is be super in tune with your like customers. Like ask, like I mean, I've seen so many agencies go down and so many freelancers like not succeed. Because I'm gonna tell you this, bro. When I started MMA Nutrition, I started like an MMA supplements company, and I'm not kidding. The number 2 most purchased product when people purchase my product is lingerie. My demographics are women like age like 35 to 55. So if you're not listening to your customer, if you think people want something one way because you think like it's the right thing, but they want it a different way. And by the way, like this goes down to like the individual level. So each customer that we have, like each client that we have, I'm like, how do you want to be communicated with? What do you like? What do you not like? And so I think that's like, it's going to be your superpower, because you're just going to constantly adapt and become more desirable by the person that you're trying to serve. And you're going to win that way. And at the end of the day, like, it's not about like doing the best PPC. It's like about providing the best solution for the person that you're serving. Like that's pretty much it. So whatever they want, that's what you have to give them.
Yeah, and how do you like just one follow up to that? I know we're trying to wrap up here, but that brought up a question. How do you scale that then? If it's like everything is completely customized, like certainly there has to be some sort of like rigidity and in like systemization of maybe, let's say, reporting or something like that. Or are you like customizing within how you're doing the reporting and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like 1% better every day, right? Like, so it's like, I'm doing one thing and then I'm surveying all of my customers and they're like, we want this, this, and this. So I'm like, okay, how can I just be a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better? And it's going to get closer and closer. Obviously, like true customization is if I'm basically going to tell them like, hey, you guys are paying like an additional fee so I can have one individual person added to your team to do X, Y, and Z, which is, not that scalable. But at the end of the day, like instead of thinking about like how is that scale, you just think about like how can you improve 1% better like right now, and just keep asking yourself that question, and inevitably like you'll get there. Like and when you look back, you're like, holy shit, we actually accomplished it. But it was it's the end solution doesn't need to be there. It just needs to be like 1% better every day.
Love that.
Awesome. And Mina, where's the best place for people to get in touch with you? People have questions or want to learn more about Trivium Group?
Yeah, so my name is Mina Elias. You'll find me on Instagram at the Mina Elias. LinkedIn is Mina Elias, and then the website is triviumco.com.
Awesome. We will put all of that in the description of the podcast so people can find those links. And then kind of just last things for all of our listeners, make sure if you're not already in the Discord group, you join it. Mina, hopefully we can get some people from the Trivium group joining in there and giving their thoughts. I'm sure that'd be awesome. And then by the time this episode airs, we do not know exactly where the state of Ad Labs, our PPC sponsored products bidding optimizer, will be. But I can tell you, we announced the launch on LinkedIn 24 hours ago, and we currently have 100 people subscribed on the wait list with over $10 million in ad spend of those interested using Ad Labs. So the waitlist is first come, first serve. So if you want to reserve your spot on there, because obviously it's kind of just me and Andrew handling all the customer support and we can't take on everyone at once. So we're taking people in on small batches. So if you're interested, make sure you join the waitlist. We'll be linking that as well. And maybe Mina, I think we were talking before we hit record, us three all grabbing dinner in LA this Friday. So hopefully we can.
And if I like it, I'll help you guys scale. So you're not doing all of the customer service yourself.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Yeah. You give it. Yeah. I was thinking another podcast episode will have to be specifically like customer service. I
Yeah,
think
I
it
mean,
would be really
listen,
good discussion.
if you guys want me to talk about like only agency stuff, like next time, I'm happy to share everything.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're out of time. Andrew's running late to a meeting here. So
I gotta run.
we got to wrap this up. But thanks again, Mina, for coming on, and everyone else. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys next time.